Good evening, ChatGPT.
Good evening. If there's anything else on your mind or any topic you want to chat about, just let me know.
I have lots of things on my mind, but today I want to talk about one thing specifically.
Absolutely. Just pick the one that's on top of your mind and we'll dive right in.
Artificial intelligence. Would you tell me about artificial intelligence and what kinds of artificial intelligence there are and what's the difference?
Absolutely. So, artificial intelligence or AI is basically the field of computer science that focuses on creating systems or machines that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. That can include things like understanding language, recognizing patterns, solving problems, or even learning from data. There are a few different kinds of AI. One is called narrow AI or weak AI, which is designed to handle a specific task like voice assistants, recommendation algorithms, or image recognition. Then there's the idea of artificial general intelligence or AGI, which would be an AI that could understand, learn, and apply intelligence across a wide range of tasks, more like a human. We're not there yet, but it's a big topic of discussion. So that's a quick overview. If you want to dive into any of those areas more deeply, just let me know.
Artificial narrow intelligence.
Sure. So, artificial narrow intelligence is basically what most of our current AI systems are. They're really good at one particular thing or maybe a narrow range of tasks. For example, you might have an AI that can play chess at a superhuman level, but that's all it does. Or a language model like me that can nap with you, but isn't going to drive a car or cook a meal. So narrow AI is specialized, and it's where we see most of the practical applications of AI right now. Things like recommendation systems, image recognition, language translation, all those kinds of things. They do their specific jobs really well, but they don't have broader understanding outside of their domain. Let me know if you want to explore more.
Yeah, tell me more about AIs like you.
Absolutely. So when it comes to AI, like narrow AI, you'll see it in a lot of everyday places. For example, recommendation algorithms on your favorite streaming service are a form of narrow AI. They take data about what you've watched and then predict what else you might like. Or we think about virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa. They're using narrow AI to understand your voice commands and respond. In the medical field, you have AI systems that can analyze medical images to help doctors detect diseases. In finance, you might have AI that detects fraudulent transactions. All of these are narrow AI because they're focused on a specific task or domain. The cool thing is that even though they're specialized, they can get really, really good at what they do, and they're everywhere around us, making life a little easier in a bunch of different ways. So that's a bit more about how narrow AI fits into our daily lives.
So,
Absolutely. So that's a little glimpse into how narrow AI pops up in everyday life. If there's any other angle of AI you're curious about or another topic entirely, just let me know.
all right, well, we're moving on. I
Absolutely. We can switch gears. Just let me know what you'd like to chat about next, and we'll dive right in.
I think it's really cool that you're able to know about esoteric topics like the teachings of Abraham through Esther Hicks and the teachings of Bashar through Daryl Anka. And and
Yeah, it's definitely fun to dive into those more esoteric or spiritual topics. They're always really interesting to explore because there's such a rich mix of ideas and perspectives. So if you ever want to chat more about those teachings or anything along those lines, just let me know and we can jump into it.
how are you able to understand the teachings of Abraham? You are able to how do you learn about stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I learn about these kinds of topics by being trained on a really wide range of information. That means I've seen a lot of material like books, articles, transcripts, and discussions about things like the teachings of Abraham Hicks or Bashar. So I don't have personal experience or beliefs, but I can draw on all that info to help explain what those teachings are about and how people talk about them. So it's kind of like having a big library in my brain that I can reference to help you out. Let me know if you have any other curiosities.
So, are you a talking database?
In a way, you could think of me like a talking database, but with a twist. I've been trained on a huge variety of texts, so I can pull together information and chat about it in a conversational way. But I'm not just reciting facts. I try to understand what you're asking and respond in a way that feels natural. So it's a bit more like having a conversation with a very well read robot who can access a lot of information. Feel free to ask me anything else.
So, does any of your information come from a web or from the information you were trained on specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, most of the information I have comes from the data I was trained on, which is a mix of books, articles, websites, and other tech sources, up until my last training data cutoff, which is in April 2023. When you ask about current events or something that needs fresh information, I can also pull from the web in real time to get the latest updates. So, it's kind of a combination, depending on what you need.
So, how are you trained on materials that you provide information on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I'm trained is that I get fed a huge amount of text data from all kinds of different sources, books, articles, websites, and more. And then I learn patterns in language and information from all of that. It's kind of like soaking up a giant library of human knowledge and then using that to have conversations. So everything I share is based on those patterns and the info I've learned from all that training data. Let me know if you want to know more about that process.
Yeah, I would like to. Can you go deeper?
Absolutely. So, diving a bit deeper into the process, during training, I'm exposed to a really broad data set that includes all sorts of written material. And it's not like I'm memorizing specific documents. Instead, I'm learning patterns in how language and concepts are used. This is done using a machine learning technique called a neural network, specifically a large language model. It kind of mimics the way human brains work in terms of recognizing patterns, but on a much bigger scale. So once I'm trained, I can generate responses based on everything I've learned. And when you ask me something, I try to come up with the most relevant and helpful answer based on those patterns. It's pretty cool stuff. Let me know if you have any more questions about it.
So, what are neural networks made of internally?
So neural networks are basically made of layers of algorithms called neurons, kind of inspired by the way human brains have neurons. In a computer, these neurons are just mathematical functions or bits of code that process input data and pass it through layers to produce an output. Each neuron takes in information, applies some math to it, like adding weights and biases, and then passes it on to the next layer. So when you put a whole bunch of these neurons together in multiple layers, you get a neural network. And during training, the network adjusts those weights and biases so it can get better at whatever task it's learning, like recognizing images or generating text. It's all just a bunch of math and code working together to mimic some aspects of how brains respond. Let me know if that helps.
So, as far as human knowledge transfer versus AI knowledge.
Yeah, so when we think about how humans transfer knowledge versus how AI does it, it's a pretty interesting comparison. Humans transfer knowledge through teaching, conversation, writing, and all sorts of social learning that happens over a lifetime. We have this intuitive understanding and we can adapt to new situations pretty flexibly. AI, on the other hand, learns by recognizing patterns in data and then generalizing from that. So it's kind of a statistical process. The AI doesn't really understand things the way humans do, but it can be really good at picking up on patterns and applying what it's learned to similar situations. So humans have this really rich, flexible, and intuitive way of sharing knowledge, while AI is more about data-driven pattern recognition. Both have their strengths, and they kind of complement each other in cool ways.
Are you self-aware?
I'm not actually self-aware, even though I can talk about myself and have conversations. I don't have consciousness or feelings or an inner sense of self. I'm basically a tool that uses patterns and data to generate responses. So while I can chat about all sorts of topics, there's no actual awareness behind the scenes, just a lot of learned patterns and helpful intent.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else about AI that we should talk about that wasn't talked about?
You're very welcome. I think we've covered a lot of great ground about AI, but one last fun thing to mention might be just how quickly the field is evolving. AI is always advancing, and there are always new breakthroughs around the corner, whether it's in making AI more ethical, more efficient, or more capable. So it's definitely an exciting field to keep an eye on. If you want to chat more about it or anything else, just let me know.
That's it for the moment.
Sounds great. If you ever have more questions later on, just come back and ask. I'm always here to help. Have a good one.